Hey guys, welcome back to the Tone Show. I was just thinking about video game movies and the huge difference between movies that are successful, the Super Mario Brothers movie, or how The Last of Us was so successful and critically loved on HBO, or how Fallout did amazing on Amazon. And then the big flops, the movies that didn't perform at all, like Borderlands, for example, which was panned, or how Halo was just canceled recently on Paramount Plus, or you had Resident Evil on Netflix that also was canceled and failed. What makes the difference between a Witcher, which the fans embrace and seem to actually enjoy watching, and something like Paramount Plus's Halo, which the fans are like, this doesn't follow what we play. So I was just curious, like, why is it that video games fans either embrace something or utterly hate it? Like, there's really there's no middle point. It has to be something to do how the fan base is either more concentrated than the general like movie watching or TV watching public. Video gamers are like a tight-knit group. You can spend hours, months, some people even spend years playing video games. So they're really immersed in this world, literally immersed in this world, right? Playing these games. So I feel like when you have a community like that, they're on the same page as far as their values and what their expectations. So when you have like movies like Borderlands, which doesn't follow like the narrative of the game, or the casting doesn't match what you see in the game at all. Like the casting was crazy, right? I enjoy Kevin Hart, but like the casting just didn't go. I feel like those fans, it's harder for them to accept that, and they outright say, hey, this is not what we're in for. We're not buying this. And I feel like the movie going public is much more forgiving as a whole. And it just made me think about Star Wars also, because Star Wars fans were a tight group as far as like hating stuff. Like Star Wars fans can really dislike things really quickly. But the difference I think between Star Wars fans, and there are Star Wars, based games, and like general video game fans, I feel like it's that Star Wars fans have so much content, like so much media, so much variation. They're more like comic book fans in a way that they'll have the original 3 movies, the original trilogy. They can be a fan of Legends. They can be a fan of the Disney Plus shows. Like Star Wars fans have so much variation, and I feel like that's the reason that the fan base itself and the shows and the media vary so much. Like we've gotten The Mandalorian, now we have Skeleton Crew, and like I feel like we can have these different shows, and the last 3 movies were so different than anything that's on Disney Plus right now. And some can say that that's all disliked, but some of it is liked, is because the Star Wars fans are kind of more used to, like, it's a less concentrated fan base. The people who are a fan of the first 3 movies are like very different than the people who are fans, for example, of Disney Plus shows. I feel like the video games, that's not the case, because there is such a unity as far as like, hey, we don't like this. Like, for example, when Halo, Paramount Plus canceled Halo, a lot of you fans said, hey, look, the portrayal of Master Chief does not follow the game, right? He doesn't take off his helmet. This is not the character that we know and love. And also the universe, like they didn't write the Halo universe as is represented in the game either. And fans were quick to say, hey, this is not it. And, and run away from it. The opposite, when the Super Mario Bros. Movie made over $1 billion, it was because it stayed true to the fans. And I remember a lot of YouTubers and a lot of people at home were like, didn't get the movie. I remember I watched Grace Randolph, and she did not enjoy the movie. And I feel like she herself said basically it's because I might not really be into Super Mario Brothers that much. And now being into that fan base is a little bit harder, I guess, for people on the outside. But she respected the fact that it made a lot of money, and she sees that. And I feel like that's the difference between video game fans and like general like movie fans or TV show fans, is that there's much more faithfulness to the canon. Since when you're playing a video game, unless you're playing a different version of a game, you're all playing the same game. You're being immersed in the same world. You're relating to the same elements. So I feel like there's less accepting when there's a movie or TV show that's based on said game. The fans of video games are like, this doesn't follow the game at all. And I feel like it's easier to reject that. Being in a tight group on the same message is very different than people who are, for example, a fan of sci-fi or comic books. I feel like comic book fans, we get exposed to so many different versions of characters, and there's so many different comics that there's like, that has different iterations of characters, that when they have a TV show that basically doesn't align perfectly with idea what the character is, I feel like comic book fans were more accepting, because we're like, oh, this is like an alternate world. This is like a what if story, or this is like an Elseworld story, like if you're into DC. So I feel like comic book fans, there's so many different versions of characters and so many different comics throughout the years that I feel like that's why networks get away and studios get away with making sometimes movies that are successful, but may not exactly follow the canon perfectly. Like we might be open to different types of Batman or Superman or whatever, while people who are into video games, like this doesn't follow the code, right? And they're less forgiving in general of the media that's put in front of them. And good for them. This honestly keeps Hollywood and TV shows and studios honest, Because if the fan base in general, like general movie fans and TV show fans, if they were less forgiving and we would just be like, hey, we're not watching this period, I think better quality would come out because, there'd be more faithfulness to what they're actually adapting. I don't see the point of adapting a comic book, a video game, or a novel if you're not going to stay true to that novel or stay true to its adaptations. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me either. So I respect video game fans for demanding and saying, hey, we're not voting with our dollars. We're not putting our dollars on this. This is not what we signed up for. So I feel like that's basically the difference why you have such movies like Borderlands that, it flops and none of the fan base is there to support it. And on the opposite end, you have The Last of Us, you have The Witcher, you have Mario Brothers, which use hits and people enjoy them because they are faithful to the adaptations. And they could be variants. Nobody's expecting an exact copy, but it has to be true. So I think that's the big difference why video game fans are less forgiving of, when the studios put crap in front of them and say, you want to eat this? What do you guys think? Why do you think that is that video game movies, like, they either succeed, exponentially, or they crash and burn? Do you think that's the truth also, that video game fans are just a closer-knit bunch, they have shared values, and they have more faithfulness to the actual canon? Put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Are you into video games? Do you watch any of these shows and movies I just spoke about? And what was your take of why some of them failed or why some of them actually succeeded? As always, that's just a Tone Show.